They saw your light, so they used IT dot. They saw something rare in you, didn't they? The quiet glow of a heart wide open, a warmth that felt like home. They noticed how you welcomed them in no questions, no conditions. They didn't knock, didn't ask for permission. No, they just walked right in as if they belonged there. But they didn't treat your heart like a gift. They treated it like a resource. Carelessly, selfishly. They mistook your kindness for naivety, your compassion for a weakness they could exploit. To them, you were a well that never ran dry, a soft place to land when life was too hard to face alone. So they came, again, and again, each time taking a little more, never stopping to ask how much it cost you to keep giving. And you let them, not because you were weak, but because you believed in them. You believed that if you loved them enough, if you showed them unconditional patience and care, they'd see your worth. You thought maybe, just maybe, they'd give something back. But they never did. Instead, they left you drained, empty, hollow. Your heart, once so full of love, felt like a home ransacked by thieves. You carried their pain as if it were your own. You soothed their fears, listened to their struggles, and offered them peace. But what did they offer you in return? Silence, indifference, more taking. That's the thing about having a heart that stays open, it makes you vulnerable. And in a world full of takers, vulnerability is often seen as an opportunity. They didn't see the strength it took for you to remain kind in a world so cold. No, they only saw a chance to get what they needed. They took, and took, and took, until there was almost nothing left of you. But one day, something inside you shifted. You saw it for what it was: not love, not friendship, but convenience. They didn't stay because they valued you. They stayed because you made it easy for them. They knew you'd always be there, always giving, always hoping. But you woke up. You finally understood that the love you were giving was far too valuable to be treated like a free-for-all. You realized that pouring into people who only drain you isn't noble, it's self-destruction. And that's when everything changed. That's when you decided to do the one thing they never thought you would. You closed the gates. No more come and go as you please, no more take whatever you need. You built walls. Strong ones, high ones. You drew a line, and this time you stood firmly on your side of it. The doors were locked, the windows shut tight. Your heart was no longer a shelter for people running from themselves. And when they realized it, oh, how they panicked. They came back, didn't they? They knocked, they called, they begged. But the gates didn't open. The doors didn't budge. And for the first time, they had to sit in the cold emptiness of their own making. You see, people like that never expect you to leave. They rely on you always being there. But you weren't there anymore. You weren't waiting for them to see your worth. You weren't holding your breath, hoping they'd change. No, you were gone. The silence hit them harder than any argument ever could. No warmth, no comfort. Just the emptiness they'd been running from all along. And you didn't feel sorry for them. Not anymore. Because you finally understood something powerful: your love is a privilege, not a convenience. Your kindness is not a currency to be spent by the selfish. Your heart is not a tool for others to use when it suits them. Your love is a sanctuary, but not for everyone. And you are no longer afraid to decide who gets in. You didn't become cold. You didn't become bitter. You became wise. You saw that not everyone deserves a seat at your table. And that's okay. Closing the gates wasn't about shutting people out. It was about protecting what's sacred. Your love, your peace, your energy. You finally learned that self-preservation isn't selfish. It's essential. And you, after giving so much of yourself away, finally decided to keep something for you. And now they feel your absence. They feel the weight of what they lost. The light they used to bask in is gone. The warmth they took for granted has vanished. They're left with nothing but cold, empty silence. No more late-night rescues. No more safe haven. No more you. And that's not your burden to bear. It's theirs. They had a place in your heart. They threw it away. So now they get to feel the chill. But you're finally free. Free from the exhaustion of endless giving. Free from the weight of expectations you never agreed to carry. Free from the cycle of trying to prove your worth to people who never deserved you in the first place. You've reclaimed your power, rebuilt your heart, and learned the most important lesson of all: not everyone deserves access to you. Your love is no longer on tap for those who take without giving. Your heart is still open, but only for those who know how to treat it. Your kindness still blooms, but only in the right hands. The walls you built aren't meant to keep love out, they're meant to protect it. They guard the most sacred parts of you. And the people who are worthy, they'll climb those walls. They'll knock at the gates with respect, not entitlement. And you'll be strong enough to tell the difference. No longer will you be drained by those who only know how to take. No longer will you chase people who never valued you. Now you stand taller, wiser, and stronger. You know that real love doesn't deplete you, it fills you. It gives back. It values your heart and protects it with care. Real love doesn't demand you sacrifice yourself just to be seen. And that is the love you deserve. So now the gates are closed, the doors are locked. And you're finally free. Free to rise, free to shine, free to love without fear of being used. The ones who never valued you will feel your absence, but that's not your concern. You carry no guilt, only growth, no resentment, only resolve. You know who you are now. You've built something unshakable inside of you. You are not hard, but you are strong. You are not cold, but you are wise. Your heart still beats with love, but now it beats for the right ones. No longer do you seek validation from those who can't even validate themselves. No longer do you fight for a seat at someone else's table when you are more than capable of building your own. The gates are closed, but not to love. They're closed to the takers, to the users, to the ones who never understood your worth until it was too late. Now you stand in your own light, unapologetically, unshakably. The world didn't make you cold, it made you clear. Your love is not a free-for-all, and your heart is not for sale. Those who truly see you will value you. They will respect the gates and cherish the chance to be let in. And you will love again, not with desperation, but with discernment. The gates are closed, but your story is not over. No, it's just beginning. It's your time to rise, your time to thrive, your time to pour love into yourself until it overflows. Not for them, but for you. Because you finally understand that your love is a rare and precious gift, and only those who cherish it will ever hold it again. The gates are closed, and you are finally free. But freedom isn't just about closing gates, it's about opening new doors. Now that you've reclaimed your power, everything feels different, doesn't it? The weight is gone. The fog has lifted. For the first time in a long time, you can breathe deeply without feeling like you owe anyone an explanation. You're no longer walking on eggshells, trying not to upset people who never cared about your peace to begin with. The silence that once felt like loneliness now feels like peace. The stillness that once felt like abandonment now feels like home. Because here's the truth, being alone is not the same as being empty. In fact, it's where you finally meet yourself. Without their noise, their demands, their endless needs, you finally have space to hear your own voice. And oh, how powerful that voice has become. It no longer whispers, it roars. It tells you what you've always known deep down: you were never the problem. You were never too much, too soft, or too kind. You were never wrong for loving deeply. They just weren't ready for the depth you offered. They didn't know how to hold something as rare as you. But you know better now. You've seen what happens when you let people take up space in your life just because they want to, not because they deserve to. And you've learned that love without respect is just manipulation with a pretty name. The old version of you would have kept the gates open, hoping they'd change. But the version of you standing here today, you know change doesn't happen just because you love someone harder. It happens because they choose it. And if they won't choose it for themselves, they'll never choose it for you. That's why the gates stay closed. Not out of spite, not out of bitterness, but out of wisdom. You know now that love without boundaries isn't love at all. It's self-sacrifice disguised as compassion. And you, my friend, have sacrificed enough. Enough of your time. Enough of your heart. Enough of you. But here's where it gets beautiful. Here's where the shift happens. Because when you close those gates to the wrong people, you create space for the right ones. The people who see you, not for what they can take, but for what they can share with you. People who don't demand access but earn it. People who don't just want warmth, they bring warmth with them. They bring peace, not problems, love, not labor. You will recognize them because you've seen the opposite for so long. They won't need to be reminded how valuable your heart is, they'll know. And here's the thing about growth, it doesn't make you harder. It makes you clearer. People love to say that hardship will toughen you up, but that's not what happened here. You didn't become tough. You became uncompromising. You didn't lose your softness, you learned to protect it. You didn't lose your love, you became more intentional with it. You didn't lose hope, you stopped placing it in people who never earned it. And that's growth. You don't owe anyone access to you. Let that sink in. You don't owe anyone access to you. Your energy, your love, your peace, these are privileges, not entitlements. You don't have to explain your absence. You don't have to justify why you walked away. You don't have to give people who drained you closure when they never offered you the same. Closure isn't a conversation, it's a decision. And you made it. When you closed those gates, you gave yourself closure. That's more than enough. And if you ever doubt yourself, if you ever feel the pull to open those gates again for someone who promises they've changed, remember this: people who truly change won't beg for access. They'll build their own gates. They'll build their own warmth. They'll meet you where you are, not where they left you. And you'll know the difference. You don't chase. You attract. You don't beg for love. You allow it to find you in its purest form. The energy you once gave so freely now fuels you. The love you once handed out to the undeserving now nourishes your soul. You no longer water dead plants hoping they'll bloom. You plant seeds in fertile ground and watch them flourish. The gates are still closed, but the path ahead is wide open. Every step you take is lighter. Every decision you make is sharper. You no longer give people chances, you give them standards. And those who can't rise to meet them, they stay on the other side of the wall. This is your time, not theirs. Your time. To rise, to grow, to heal, to thrive, to live with the kind of peace that doesn't need to be explained to anyone. You are no longer what happened to you. You are what you chose to become because of it. So let them watch. Let them wonder. Let them knock at the gates they once took for granted. You don't owe them an answer. Your silence says everything. Because in the stillness of that silence, one thing is louder than it's ever been: you are finally free.